Welcome back to Investing and Trading Live. Once again, I am your host, Josh Lilquist. On the last segment, we covered some topics on efficiency of your capital. Efficiency of your money, we'll call it. So there's ways to be more efficient by using a leveraged asset class in the financial markets. Everybody knows stocks, which don't really have any leverage. It's dollar for dollar. Then you have the options market, which has leverage. The futures market, which has leverage, and then also the Forex market that has leverage. So in the last segment, we did cover the concept of leverage, why might you want to utilize it, but also who is using that leverage every single day. Banks, institutions, people that know what they're doing in the financial markets. The public is told to go get into a non-leveraged asset and just park their money and let it sit there. And how we ended that last segment was who is consistently profitable and who is consistently not profitable in the financial markets. We know the institutions are always profitable. The public, the ones that have not been educated on it, typically are not. So there's a disconnect there. So in these investing classes that we get into here in Bloomington or in a city near you here in the metro area, we cover these concepts, these techniques that the institutions are doing that are available to us, the public, so we can trade like them and not against them. Simply just text the word investing to the number 210-210 right now for 2 seats for an investing class, one for you and one for a friend. Text the word investing to the number 210-210. When you do that, you'll get a text right back. Just click the link in there. When you click that link, it'll bring you straight to our landing page. You can pick a date and a location that is closest to your house. So also, we do appreciate our subscribers on the podcast. Whether you're on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, just type in Investing and Trading Live and follow the show. We do a show almost every single day, a market update, but also the show that you're listening to right now each and every single week. Investing and Trading Live, wherever you listen to podcasts. So on this last segment, Al, let's discuss and continue to talk about, for our listeners to understand the concept of leverage, which we talked about in the last segment. But also how to do that comfortably, because people, if you don't know what you're doing, just like the example of working out and getting healthy and going to a gym or a health club to get in shape, if you don't know what you're doing, it can be intimidating for some people and it just makes people uncomfortable. And then they shy away from it. They don't go do it. And then years go by and they say, I wish I would have done something different earlier in life. And then that could be in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s even, right? And it's never too late to start, especially investing in the markets. You look at Warren Buffett, he's 90-something? And still arguably one of the top investors ever. And didn't become very, very rich until later on in life, actually.
That's correct.
So it's never too late to start. If you're 50 years old right now, you're at halftime. You're at halftime of where you need to, of your life. We're living longer these days, so there's just opportunities that are available to us that I want you to discuss. So let's just say someone is new to the market, and they only know stocks, but don't really know how to trade them or how to invest with them. They have 401ks or IRAs, retirement plans, quote unquote. So they're not actively managing the markets, but they're in the market. What have you helped people do that are in the markets that want to do a little bit more or have more opportunities later in life? What do you help people do as far as building a wealth bucket?
Well, when you're talking about building a wealth bucket, when you're talking about any kind of goal or objective, you have to find out what that is. What is your goal? What do you need? What do you want for your financial future? I mean, you want to just feel secure? Are you way behind? Do you need to catch up? All these things that we see every week when we have students come in or people come in that are looking at becoming students, we hear pretty much every story you could think of. But what's happening recently, because the cost of living has gone up so much, we're now finding that people that are making over $150,000 a year are living paycheck to paycheck. So what happens if you only know one part of the financial market? That's the stock market. That could be individual stocks, it could be mutual funds or exchange traded funds. But what happens is that people make mistakes. They take on too much risk to try to catch up, to get up to where they think they should be, where they thought they would be at this particular time in their life. And that's the thing that you want to avoid. That word risk is is something that we look at very seriously. That is the number one thing you have to learn how to control. When we talk about the leveraged assets, we talk about things like the options market, the futures market, the foreign exchange market. The word that typically comes to mind when people hear those is risk. Aren't those too risky? Well, I said this before, I'll say it again. The risk is not in the asset. The risk is not in the market. The risk is in the trader. It's in the individual. By not knowing how to take advantage of these assets and these strategies, but especially not knowing how to manage risk. So let's take that off the table. The number one thing we will teach you is how to manage risk. So if you are wrong, and 100% nobody is going to be right every time. So if you are wrong, if it's only a small loss, that's something that doesn't really impact you significantly, that's okay, because you'll have small wins that will offset those small losses. You never have a big loss, but what you do have access to are the big wins. So understanding what the assets are, what the characteristics of each asset is or are, and then also knowing how to manage the risk. So you should never make an investment or trade unless you know what the downside is, what's the potential, and then if you can't manage that potential, that downside, then you shouldn't do that trade.
It's really just like anything we do in life, if you think about it, Al. If we go into any situation in life, you want to kind of know what could happen, either good or bad, it doesn't matter, but you want to know ahead of time what could happen. Like, say, for example,
Sure.
you want to drive to Florida. Well, what could happen is we could get there, or we may not get there.
Those are the outcomes.
But you mentioned earlier about having a plan, following a roadmap to get there, mitigating the risk, which would be putting your seatbelt on, driving the speed limit, looking both ways when you cross, different intersections and everything. So we do that in our everyday life. But most people, and probably most of our listeners, had never been trained on how to do that in the financial markets.
Right.
Now, when you're helping people get over that hurdle of the comfort zone, that's where you see growth, is when you're out of your comfort zone, because that now is the new norm.
Yeah, if you are just dealing within your comfort zone and you're not happy with the way you are, things aren't going to change, and then something in the way you have been doing things hasn't worked for you. So, like Josh says, you need to step out of your comfort zone, but do it in a way where maybe somebody is helping you, somebody who knows how to utilize the different assets, the different strategies, somebody who has maybe stepped out of their comfort zone at some point in time and learned how to successfully use whatever they are looking at doing. Once you do that, once you step out of your comfort zone, you're basically just expanding that comfort zone. Once you learn how to properly utilize, the new area that you're in, that new environment to your benefit, then that becomes comfortable. But the best way to do that is to do it with the guidance of somebody who has already done it, who's done it successfully, who can guide you, kind of take you by the hand. It's sort of like going to a maze, and if you start at the beginning of a maze, it may take you hours to get to the end. Well, if somebody that knows the proper direction through that maze takes you by the hand, maybe in less than a minute or so you get through it. I'm not saying that you're going to be successful in a minute or less, but the point is, if you use somebody, if you take advantage of the skills and the success that somebody else has had, it's going to help you get to that point of success much quicker yourself.
Yeah, it's just like anything out there. If you have a coach, a mentor, a trainer, as we kind of kicked the show off here today, of having in a health club, they have trainers. So it's the same concept. It's just, if you don't know, you don't know where to start. And that's why we do have these investing classes, to help people get out of that comfort zone. I was actually having a conversation with a nice family this past, I think it was a couple weeks ago now, and they just felt complacent. They felt complacent. They were doing really well financially as far as their job and everything, but they wanted more. They wanted to leave a legacy for their family, leave some money for the kids. More so, it was the grandkids they wanted to leave it for, but they wanted to do more, but not have to do more jobs, work another job to do that. And they wanted to use the financial markets as an income strategy to build another bucket to fill that void that they were feeling. So I think that's one of the nice things, is understanding these different leveraged asset classes have those different opportunities, and it's just how to use that properly and safely, and that's what we train and teach. And we start you off with a free investing class to introduce you to these techniques and concepts, how they work, some of the opportunities. That way you can actually make your own decision if that even makes sense for you. So come into one of these investing classes simply by just texting the word investing to the number 210, that's for 2 seats, one for you and one for a friend. Or go online to otamin.com. That's otaminn.com. We've had a great show here today. A lot of our listeners have been texting in. A lot of subscribers on the podcast, by the way, which has been phenomenal over the past couple months here. But you always have some great words of wisdom. So here, let's hear today's OTA tip of the week.
Well, basically everyone wants financial freedom. They want to live the life on their own terms, and they want to enjoy stability, financial stability. But really, how many people are genuinely dedicated to putting in the work and committing themselves to getting the work done? Sadly, not many people. Certainly not everyone. A lot of people get tied up with excuses, wrong priorities, and a lack of action. You have to take the initiative to use what it takes to be successful. It takes knowledge, it takes skills, and it takes taking the action to use that knowledge and those skills. Remember, you're responsible for the life you want. You're responsible for taking action.
I like that. Action is that number one thing. As we're talking here, I'm looking out the window. There's a food truck out there. That's a business that I would think would be very scary getting into because you don't know where your money's coming from. You have to go get it. You have to take action to go find a place to go. Well, that's the same thing in the financial markets. Do that confidently. Have the confidence to get in these markets. Start with an investing class. Text the word investing to the number 210. As always, same time, same place next week. Until then, retire young, my friends.